Pastor Doug here from Crossroads. It's great to be with you. I hope that today's message will draw you closer to Jesus.
Now today we're going to wrap up. It's been 11 weeks in Proverbs. And you've been reading all these great little statements, these words of wisdom, things that are not promises, but they're accurate the majority of the time. And where we were last week and how we're finishing up this week is talking about growing influence. What does it look like to grow in influence? Because Solomon says, man, here's some key characteristics, here's some key traits that, are when they're a part of your life, you're not only going to grow in influence, your relationships are going to go deeper. And I think one of the great things about Solomon's words of wisdom is, if you're just checking out what it means to be a Jesus follower, you're not really sure what this all looks like. I would tell you this is something that you can try. Just try to put Solomon's words into action. See if these ancient words, 3,000 years old, if they actually work in your life. Do you grow in influence? Do your relationships go deeper? And if you find out the answer to that is yes, I'd encourage you to explore Jesus. How did Jesus take these characteristics, these traits that were a part of his life? And how did he live them out? And how were they a part of him just changing history in the world as he was God in the flesh, displaying God's characteristics and traits to us? So last week we covered these three, what it looks like to live a life of humility, but with confidence. And we were ending with what it means to have a thick skin. How not everything's a big deal. How you can let certain things bounce off of you. And you have to understand that everybody has bad days, right? People don't always mean to be hurtful or harmful, so you need to know what you let bounce off and what you need to navigate. Earlier this summer, I was having a conversation with several of you in different situations, and I'm like, I need a little bit of help. I'm like, do you know the terminology for when somebody is both hungry and angry? And what's the term for that? Hangry. And isn't that Snickers that gave us that term? And I'm like, I need your help because I need to develop a term for when people are hot and tired and they're becoming angry. Because I encounter different people in different situations. And man, the heat was just getting to them. They were tired. They were worn out. And it was coming out in some ways. They were getting upset about things that they would not normally be upset about. They were leaning into things they wouldn't normally lean into. And I get it. They were, hot. They were tired, just like people can be hungry and get a little angry. I might be one of those people. You might be one of those people. But there were people, and I'm like, you know what? This isn't who they normally are. I wouldn't normally describe them as vexed or inflamed or, any of those other terms. This isn't who they are. It is situational. And when you understand where someone is at and who someone really is, and they're operating outside their norm, you can see, you know what? I got a thick enough skin, I can just let that one bounce. I don't need to address that one. It's not something that needs to get underneath my skin. It's not something that I should let rent space in my brain. That's another aspect of having a thick skin. But I want us to move on from there into our fourth one. And our fourth thing that we find in Solomon is using words wisely. If you, for the past 11 weeks, have been reading, your daily proverb, you come across so many proverbs that talk about the power of words and the correct use of words. And if you want to really grow in influence and you want deeper relationships, then understanding the wise use of words is just so incredibly essential. In Proverbs 17, we read like this: a truly wise person uses few words. A person with understanding is even-tempered. And you might think, but isn't it true that if I speak more, I influence more? No, not really. People have a short attention span. And it's good for me to remember this one, and it's also hard because I regularly have a microphone attached to my face. But I know that using few words is wise. It is important. I know that less is often more. Now, my wife, Denise, and I are very opposite in our natural gifting, our natural temperament in this area. I could be silent. I could use few words. She will often over-explain, use many words. So this is the situation. This is one of you might text us and say, hey, we're going out for dinner tonight. Can you join us? And my response might be, no. I mean, it's short, it's simple, it's direct. And Denise would be like, no, that's not enough. And I'm like, thanks for the invite. We already have commitments. And, she helps to balance me out. Now, her response might be, oh, man, that's such a wonderful thing. You don't know how much it means for us to get this invite. I am so sorry to say that, man, we had this commitment. We made this 3 months ago. And she will give paragraphs of details of why we can't join you for dinner tonight. But we balance each other out. That wise use of words, not using too many, not using too little, trying to get to that sweet spot. And Solomon says, man, come on, when you get this one, when you get the wise use of words, when few words are often more than enough, you begin to understand how it looks like to grow and influence and to deepen your relationships. Let me explain it a different way. You answer this question. Do you learn more by talking or by listening? What's your response? Listening, the few of you that were willing to say that out loud. Listening, you know that is true. How about this one? Do you feel loved when someone just talks to you constantly about all that's going on in their life, but never asks you what's going on in your life? Yeah. You don't. Do you feel loved when someone just dominates the conversation, but doesn't make any space, any room for you to talk? You understand that often less is more. The wise use of words is sometimes few words. A quote that you might be familiar with that resonates because it seems so true. Being heard is so close to being loved that for the average person, they are almost indistinguishable in a world filled with people that also often feel lonely. They feel like they're journeying way too much by themselves. You and I leaning in and providing that listening ear can make all the difference. Can help them to feel loved, to help them to feel known, to help them to know that they're not walking the journey of life alone. What does that look like? Just a few listening tips that are good for me. Maybe they will be good for you. Being quiet is not the same as listening. Just sitting, not saying a word, just letting the person go on and on and on, that's not listening. Listening means that you're engaged in the conversation. So I ask questions throughout. I ask clarifying questions to make sure I'm tracking appropriately. Another thing is whenever there's some space in the conversation, I will make summary statements. So what I hear you saying is, and then they can course correct me as they need to be. But when you do that kind of listening, you're actually engaged in the conversation. They know that you're listening to them. They feel heard. They begin to feel known. And here's another aspect of using few words. Another truth that you automatically know. People listen more when we talk less. People listen more when we talk less. Now, some of you are old enough that you might remember those commercials from the 70s and the 80s, E.F. Hutton commercial. And it would be a noisy airport or hotel lounge or whatever. And then suddenly the one person would say, well, my broker is E.F. Hutton. And they say, and it was dead silent. Everybody was listening. But you likely have some people in your life. They don't have a lot to say. They get using few words. But when they speak, you listen. And you likely have some people in your life that they seem to talk non-stop. But no one's really listening to them. And Solomon says there's a wise use of words, not being silent, but not doing all the talking. Here's another really let's put an example that Solomon gives. This is a great example. And I'm going to ask you to put yourself in a box. I'm going to give you two options, morning or non-morning, all right? How many of you raise your hand? You are a morning person. Can we see some hands in the room? There's a number of you. Okay, hands down. How many of you, if you had to put yourself in a box, you would say, I'm a non-morning person? How many of you? Oh, what a perfect balance of us, right? Well, here's some words of wisdom that Solomon gives us. A loud and cheerful greeting early in the morning will be taken as a curse. Come on, morning people. You're like, what? How? How could that be? I'm being cheerful. I'm joyful. It's a new day. The sun is out. It's a fresh beginning. Non-morning people. You're like, if you really loved me, you'd say nothing. And if you have to say something, you'd keep it quiet and to a minimal amount of words. But you understand every situation is different. Every person is different. And the wise use of words to really grow in influence, to deepen those relationships, is to know the person, to know the situation. And often you cater, you lean into what's best for them. Come on, parents in the room, your best time and your kid's best time is often different. You want to have those really deep conversations? They happen when you would like to already be asleep, right? You go into the bedroom late at night, you sit on the bed, and you ask them about their day and what's going on in their life. It's no longer one-word or three-word answers. They start to open up. It's situational. You know who the person is. Come on, there are conversations that will happen over a slice of pizza that will never happen anywhere else. Know the person, know the situation, lean in, grow in your influence, and deepen your relationship. And again, Solomon says, use your words wisely. Different situations, different approaches. Another example from Proverbs 25. Singing cheerful songs to a person with a heavy heart is like taking someone's coat in cold weather or pouring vinegar in a wound. Some of you, you've lived this or are living this. There's very real pain, there's very real hurt. And someone with the best of intentions says something, and it's just like salt being rubbed into an open wound. It's more than a decade ago that I brought our deacons at the time together and we went through the book. The title of the book was Don't Sing Songs to Those with a Heavy Heart. And don't we understand that in our awkwardness and those difficult times, sometimes we just avoid the person that's hurting or in pain and say nothing. We don't even make our presence known. Sometimes we say things that, man, we meant them with the best of intention, but boy, do they hurt. And we need to learn the wise use of words is often just leaning in the power of presence, just asking them how they're doing, expressing that you're so incredibly sorry, offering that hug. Here's just a few examples in case you're curious, a few examples from the book that we might say with the best of intentions. It feels like salt in the wound. I know how you feel. It's for the best. At least you had 27 years with them. At least they didn't have to suffer. At least God doesn't give you more than you can handle. God will work good out of this. And we understand the wise use of words. Man, you can think these things. But the wise use of words is knowing the appropriate time to say something and not say something. Understanding the person, the situation, and using our words wisely as we minister and represent Jesus to someone well. Our words can hurt or heal. And the key is thinking before we speak. Should we say something? Should we remain quiet? Last piece on wise use of words. There could be so many examples, but Proverbs 15, the heart of the godly thinks carefully before speaking. The mouth of the wicked overflows with evil words. Even fools are thought wise when they keep silent. It's always a good reminder for me. With their mouths shut, they seem intelligent. And this isn't just for complicated situations. This is for everyday life. Okay, I'm going to phone a friend. I need your help. Help me out with these two different scenarios. I go to the grocery store. I go to the express checkout line if grocery stores still have them. 12 items or less. The person in front of me, I'm counting. Clearly they have 17 and there's some things hiding. I'm sure we're well into the 20s. What should I say? Nothing, exactly. That is the wise use of words. Real life example. I'm at one of our local coffee shops this past week. The cell phone of an individual there rings. She picks it up and she begins to talk twice the volume that she was using before. Like everybody is staring, everybody is being annoyed. What should I say? Nothing. Exactly. Yeah. How will they learn? Okay. There will be someone in her life, friends or family. Hey, grandma. Hey, mom. Proper cell phone etiquette is, I don't have to be that person. That is the wise use of words, is knowing when to be silent and when to speak up. But let's go on. What else do you need? If you want a life of growing influence, you're not surprised to know that, love. Love's at the foundation. Love is essential. If you want to have influence, you want to have deeper relationships, love is foundational. And biblical love is so different than our culture definition of love. Our culture's definition of love has so much to do with emotions. The biblical definition of love has so much to do with actions. And the most powerful relationship magnet that exists in our world now, thousands of years ago, is love. Solomon might say it like this. Let love and faithfulness never leave you. Bind them around your neck. Write them on the tablet of your heart. And then you will win favor and a good name in the sight of both God and man. So love, biblical definition, is an action. Behavior, not an emotion. Think about it like this. Jesus gives us a really odd group of individuals that we are to love. He tells us to love our enemies. Is Jesus saying, I want you to feel all mushy-gushy, head over heels, passionate, goo-goo gaga, about your enemies? No, it's not at all about emotion. Jesus isn't saying, feel this emotion towards your enemies. He talks about treating them the way that you would want to be treated. It's all about action. It's all about behavior. I love the way the Apostle Paul talks about love. He tells us to try to out-submit one another. That's all about action. How can I out-submit you? How can you out-submit me? Love is all about action. It's how we treat the people around us. It's a behavior, it's a characteristic, it's a trait. The past 2 weeks, my wife Denise has mowed the yard for me. I know she does not enjoy mowing the yard. If she has a spare hour, she's like, I'm going to mow the yard. That'd be great. It was an action. She didn't have to even say she loved me. It was love in action. This past Tuesday, was out with my little from Big Brothers Big Sisters, and, just provided a listening ear. Just goofing off. Just speaking words of life into his life. He knows he's loved even before I say it. This past week, I had the privilege of having lunch with one of you, and as I was driving back to the office, I thought, man, I don't think we use the word love or Jesus at all in our conversation. But man, the way that you lean in and you love on kids and young adults, it is surely evident by your actions. Your love for Jesus and your love for them. And please don't mishear me. Telling people you love them is wonderful and necessary. Telling people about your relationship with Jesus is a beautiful and wonderful part of the discipleship process. But come on, the people that you know that love and love incredibly well, you see it so much more through their actions than you even hear it through their words. Solomon and Jesus are clear on the centrality of love on display in our lives. But the Apostle Paul, how clear he makes this. What he says we look like when we have all the great stuff, but we don't have love. Love this way he says it. If I could speak all the languages of earth and of angels, but didn't love others, I'd only be a noisy gong or a clanging cymbal. If I had the gift of prophecy and I understood all of God's secret plans and possessed all knowledge, and if I had such faith that I could move mountains, but didn't love others, I would be nothing. If I gave everything I had to the poor and even sacrificed my body, I could boast about it. But if I didn't love others, I would have gained nothing. Do a quick inventory of your life. Is there an area of your life, or there relationships in your life where you feel you should have more influence? Where you really believe that it should be a deeper level of relationship? In those areas, do the people know that you love them? Not just by your words, but by your actions. Because when you love someone, you want what is best for them. You want them to experience this Jesus life, of life in its fullest in the here and now. You are for them. You've heard the phrase, people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. Do the people around you, the areas of your life where you want deeper relationships and more influence, do they know how much you care? Not simply by your words, but also by your actions. Okay, that's one more piece. One more piece that Solomon would give us on growing influence. And I use the word dependable, maybe reliable. The word that Solomon uses again and again is faithful. But it's all about, can you be counted on? Do you do what you say you're going to do? And when you don't, are you willing to own it and apologize? Let's go back to the very same proverb that we just looked at before, but from the slightly different angle. We'll leave love for now and let love and faithfulness never leave you. When you're dependable, if it never leaves you, you will win favor and a good name. Being faithful, being dependable is essential if you want to have a life of growing influence and deeper relationships. So, great question to ask yourself, for me to ask myself: am I dependable? Am I reliable? Can I be counted on? Do I keep my word, and do I apologize when I miss the mark? Solomon paints this incredibly clear word picture for us. He says this in Proverbs 25. He says, putting confidence in an unreliable person in times of trouble is like chewing with a broken tooth or walking with a lame foot. Now that's direct, but I think we can all relate. Have you ever had any kind of mouth pain? Do you want to eat a steak in that moment? Have you ever twisted your ankle, or you're having foot or knee or hip issues? Do you want to go on a hike? It's an incredibly clear picture of putting confidence in an unreliable person. In other words, if you want to have influence, you want deeper relationships, and you're missing the mark, you're unreliable, you're just not going to get there. Recently, I was in a situation where somebody asked me, hey, would you hire blank? And I missed the mark. I didn't listen to Solomon's word of wisdom. I probably said too much. I should have went with the great, almost always true answer of, that's a great question, let me think about it for a while. But I was trying to think about why was it that answer was so immediate, so direct to me. And I came across this proverb, and I'm like, okay, that nails it. So I took this proverb and I tried to make it into a gentler, maybe more modern paraphrase. And here's how I would say it. I can love molasses, but I don't have to love pushing molasses uphill all day long. Can you relate? There are people in your life that you love, but you don't have to love getting them going. Come on, when you've had to ask your teenager for the 17th time, have you taken out the trash? You love them. But you also get the pain of when somebody is unreliable, when they don't follow through, when they don't do what they said they are going to do. A person of growing influence and deeper relationships is dependable in the good times and the bad. When the tasks are easy and when the tasks are hard. When you're doing what you love to do and when you're doing things you don't really want to do. On your connection card. Here's how I'd like us to wrap up this part of the series. We've been talking about these characters, these traits of a person of influence, a person that goes deeper in relationships. And probably throughout the past 2 weeks, different faces, different names have been coming to your mind of someone who is highly influential, someone who is living out these characteristics. Would you take some time, phone call, text, write them a little note card. Just thank them for having influence in your life. Thank you for the relationship that they have with you. And just say, hey, here's some of the characteristics that I see in you. You're so loving. You use your words so wisely. Just list them out. And may all of us grow and have even more influence for God's glory through his strength and grace.
Thanks again for listening. Any step you take towards Jesus is a step in the right direction. You can find out more about us at crbic.org. That's crbic.org.